Get this screen straight for you. Welcome everybody, Martinis with Scott, episode 115 here on a happy Friday. Hope you guys are all doing well. It's cold in my little podcast studio here. Get my sweater done up. I was listening to a podcast this morning while working on other matters. I always have something going in my ear. I forget what it's called, Roofers Podcast, something like that. For the contracting industry, roofers specifically, but what they were talking about applies to every single business, and we've touched on it on the Martinis with Scott channel before. And specifically, they were talking about creating value in your business. So take a hypothetical example. They referred to a contractor that, say, is doing $2 million in revenue, has been doing in that range for a sustainable period of time. A long period of time would make you believe that they're going to keep doing $2 million in revenue into the future, and say they're generating $500,000 to the bottom line that the owner of this business, presumably the main contractor, can put in his or her pocket. So $2 million in revenue, $500,000 in profit. Is that a business that has created value? What do you mean by creating value? Could someone else, or will someone else come in and buy that business from you? Will they give you a multiple on that $500,000? It's a great question. And I'm going to walk through a little test today so that you can answer the question whether your business is transferable or not. But before you decide whether it's transferable, you need to decide whether you even want it to be transferable. And this is kind of a binary decision. It's not a one-time binary decision, but when you start your business, you should start it with whether or not, I should have turned these lights on brighter for you, right? Hope the quality is okay. I see some glares on my face. I forgot to crank up the wattage here in the podcast studio in beautiful Fernie, British Columbia. You need to decide when you start your business, or you ought to think about when you start your business, how you're going to exit. If you're going to exit, and by exit, you mean sell and get liquid, or do you want this thing just to be a job for as long as you choose to work, a job that pays you more than working for somebody else would if you're successful, a job that gives you freedom, and freedom doesn't mean you don't have to work. Freedom means you have to work more. What does Joseph have to say here? Can I start online? I don't know what that means. Joseph, if you have a question, please jump in. Let me know. Related to business or change management or leadership or anything you want. Where was I? I see other people do these live streamings and they answer questions, yet keep their trains of thought at the same time. Do you want this just to be a job, the $2 million in revenue and the $500,000 net profit in your pocket? Well, you could do that for however many years you could do that. You could do financial planning as if it was a $500,000 job, and you can put the money, set a certain amount away and a certain amount for living, and accumulate a nest egg for your retirement. And I want to start my clothing brand, but I don't know where to start. Okay, Joseph, I'm going to finish my story and I'm going to come back to you. And so just so I can keep my train of thought on this and not change topics for the day as much as possible. So when you retire, if you just want the job, right? It was a $500,000 job, which is a great job, and you can put money away and you can close down and sell off your assets, and there you go. Or you could try to create value in your business from day one. And Joseph, who wants to be in the clothing business as an online retailer, I take it, is that a job, or are you trying to create value that you can transfer to somebody else? And the key to whether you're creating value or not is this idea of transferability. Is there personal goodwill in your business? In other words, is it tied to you and only you, or could I, as the buyer, come in and get that money for you? And get that value and therefore pay you money for that? Well, here's a test to answer that question. Can you, as the business owner, as a contractor or any other business, could you just leave? Could you leave and go on holiday for, say, a month? And when I say go on holiday, don't go on holiday like I go on holiday, because I have this issue at my business, Cinco Range. 100% I have failed to create equity value so far. I'm going to get there, but it's been a long, hard process. Could you leave for 1 month, and would the business just take care of itself? And if the answer is no, which is the way it is for most people, if the answer is no, then then you don't have transferable equity value because the business is tied too much to you. Let's say you want to create equity value. We're going to talk at the end of this about whether that's a good decision or not, or one way to look at it in terms of being a good decision or not. You just say, okay, well, I have this $500,000 net profit, but I can't go on vacation for a month or 2 months. What would I have to do to go on vacation for a month or 2 months? And then maybe hypothetically, you come up with the idea that I need a general manager, basically someone to run the day-to-day operations, because I've got good crews, right? I need to do scheduling, I need to do quoting, I need to do pricing, I need to get the crews operating, make sure they have their materials in the morning. I need a good GM or a lead for this to work. And maybe I need a sales guy too, or sales gal, someone who's door knocking, getting on the leads. There's a commission attached to this. So let's just make it up. Let's say there's $100,000 salary for each of those positions. Maybe not each one individually, but let's say in aggregate $200,000 on whatever blend. Well, the $500,000 that you're putting in your pocket, really, if I'm a buyer of this business, I'm going to look at that as $300,000 that I would be putting in my pocket because I'm not you, and I would have to pay these two people, the GM and the salesperson, an aggregate of $200,000, which means I can only put $300,000 in my pocket if I want to be the owner of this business. Okay, and you need to start thinking that way. And the idea of this business being worth less without those people is this concept of personal goodwill, which simply means that your business is worth more to you than your business is worth to me. And the reason for that is you. It's not sustainable in whole, or it's not sustainable in part, or it's not sustainable in whole without bringing in these other resources, which cost money. If you want to start, I can tell you from my personal experience, if you want to start to build equity value, you need to start planning that either at the beginning of your business, or if I wanted to start doing that today, it's going to take me 3 to 5 years. They suggested on this podcast 7 years to get that into place. So if you're getting up to be 50, 55, you think you're going to want to retire in 10 years, you need to start planning this now. But let me walk you through some math as to whether you think this is a good idea. Let's just stick with our hypothetical example. And ask yourself, is it worth it? So if you have the $500,000 net profit, and we're going to take off the $200,000 to make this whole business transferable, say to me, what kind of multiple am I going to give you on the 500,000 minus 200,000 is 300,000 I can put in my pocket for the foreseeable future? What kind of multiple will I pay you up front for that $300,000? Now, there's all sorts of limiting factors onto the multiple that I will pay for this. And one limiting factor would be, do I have enough cash? Is there enough financing available in the market in general to buy a $300,000 net profit projected business? And these people on the podcast this morning suggested a 3 times multiple. Maybe that's a little bit low, but let's just use that. 3 to 4 multiple on $300,000 is a $900,000 to $1.2 million valuation. Let's round it off at $1 million. I would write you $1 million check to take over your business, and I would want to make sure I have that GM and salespeople in there. It makes sense? You understand that? Okay. Now let's look at the cost to you of creating a situation where that business is transferable to me. If it's going to take 3 to 5 years to get people up and running and understanding your culture, creating the systems so that everything is cohesive and the business runs well with these 2 new key employees, the salesperson and the GM, well, let's say that takes 3 to 5 years. As we suggested, you've incurred $200,000 of extra expense for those 3 to 5 years, right? The $100,000 each or whatever the blend is. So that's $200,000 a year for 3 to 5 years is magically $600,000 to $1 million in extra expense out of your pocket before you have sold the business. So we rounded off at $1 million is what I would pay you for this business. But to get there, you would have to invest $600,000 to $1 million to create that value. Okay. Now,
As the business gets bigger, the numbers will be more in your favor. If it was $1 million in profit, and I applied a 3 or 4 times, now there's a $3 to $4 million purchase price, but your cost of those 2 employees was still the 600,000 to $1 million. So it starts to make more sense. But the smaller your business, maybe the worst decision this is, the lesser of a decision this is, just mathematically speaking. Okay, so it's not a slam dunk that you want to create equity value. Maybe you do, but the point is, if you want to create equity value, if you want to sell your business, you need to make a choice. And if the choice is you want to do that, you need to plan for it. It takes a long time. And the test that you can apply is, can I go away for a month or 2 months and not talk to the office? If the answer is no, you can't sell your business. It's worth 0. It's worth the net assets. What are net assets? What I mean by that, your tools, your truck, maybe your brand. That's a different conversation, but you need to be able to do that. Okay, where are we here? 11 minutes in. Joseph, can I start a line? I want to start my clothing brand, but I don't know where to start. So it's a personal brand or a business. That's really not enough information for me, Joseph, in terms of a specific question. But where you want to start is with a product. You need to scope out what you're selling. So we've talked on this show a lot. You know, go back and watch the Martinis with Scott show with Rob Fraser, who started Endure in Apparel, ENDUR, specifically a sock company, and the trials and tribulations that he went through as an entrepreneur. I think, if I recall in that episode, he specifically told you that he started a sock company because socks were the one thing that he could get cheap. He could afford to build inventory, and there was a decent margin on them. When you say an apparel company, what you're probably talking about is building a brand around a bunch of apparel. But my advice to you, if you don't know where to start, is pick one thing. Pick socks, like Rob did. Pick something else. Pick hats. Pick T-shirts. Whatever you're going to pick. Okay, get a supply chain. Get it costed. Get your designs. Okay, figure that all out yourself, and then focus on your margin. Here's my formula for making money. Number 1, understand your contribution margin. I've done a bunch of shows on that. Surf through the Martinis with Scott channel and find that. Number 2, your overheads. And then number 3, worry about your revenue. And your revenue in your case is an online sales platform, a personal brand versus a business brand, and all that sort of stuff. But if you don't know where to start with the product. Start with what you're trying to sell to who, and worry about your margins. Worry about your margins first. Okay, that's my advice to you, Joseph. And if you come back with specific questions, you can do it in the comments. I'll pick them up, or come on live. You're the first person who's come on live with an actual question, and it freaked me out a little bit. So next time I'll try to keep my train of thought better. Hope everybody has a great Friday and a wonderful weekend. We'll talk to you next week.